Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Well, unless you're on the West Coast like I am, good morning still. We have an hour to go. My name is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast, where I have the unbelievable experience and opportunity to bring some guests on the show to provide motivation, inspiration, and education. And today we have another great guest. We have Karel Silver Fox Pravec. He is a 4th-degree black belt under Renzo Gracie, one of Renzo's first American students. He's well known around the world as a highly technical black belt and instructor with focus on efficient submissions. He is the author of Fluid BJJ and multiple video instructionals on BJJ, Fanatics, and Digitsu. Competed infrequently, but won 2008 IBJJF NOGI PanAms 3rd place in the black belt adult division. 2010 IBJJF Europeans 1st place absolute and 2nd place lightweight in the black belt seniors. 2007 NAGA World Championship 1st place Advanced Masters absolute weight, and 2006 1st place Grapplers Quest West in the Advanced Masters division. It's an amazing lineup and an amazing bio right there in and of it by itself. Silver Fox, great to have you on Master Motivation today. How are you?
Great, thank you. I appreciate being on.
I love bringing on professionals in the martial arts, martial artists with extensive backgrounds and decades of practice. And I think that today is going to be just another great show of sharing your story. Now, I want to remind everybody who is watching live, if you have any questions throughout this discussion today, please post your questions in the comments. I would love to ask Karel for you. If there's anything that you want us to talk about, we'd love to hear that as well. So please drop a quick comment. Let us know that you're here and where you're from, and we'll get started. So Silver Fox, tell me, motivation that gets you to compete at a more mature age
after so I like the way you're putting it. Yeah, to be honest with you, I did not want to do it. I was scared of it. I did not want to do it. I competed in karate tournaments back in the 90s, and in grappling, I sort of was a very avid hobbyist. I would train every day, an hour a day, and I slowly I got talked into opening a school, and first starting out on a part-time basis, and I really don't want to do it. And I think because I was scared of it, I basically said, you know what, I got to conquer my fear, and I did it. And, I was competing against guys literally at the peak of their career, professional, athletes and teachers and practitioners. And, I had some good victories. I only competed once or twice a year, which is also not enough. But at least, I kind of experienced a lot of the different emotions that go into, anybody that goes into fighting. I never did MMA, but I did between karate, open style karate tournaments and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappling tournaments, both gi and no-gi. I get to experience sort of a lot of the emotions that my students or athletes go through. And so you also, it endows you with a better understanding what's going on through their heads and sort of how do you try to manage it and channel it in a more positive way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm taking notes as we're talking already, and several topics I want to address and talk about. The emotions of competition, right? I mean, there are so many different emotions that run through us as a competitor or as a performer when you're put against another opponent who's trained and worked hard, and there's frustration, there's disappointment, there is the victories and the success, and feeling all of that accomplishment and that newfound confidence. Tell me a little bit more about how you manage your emotions in competition and how you teach your students that are competing how to manage those emotions.
It's a bit of a balancing act. I think one of the worst emotions is sort of like, what will others think? That is probably the sort of what will your teachers, what will your students, what will your friends think? And that's probably the least important one, and probably the least productive emotion. It's a balancing act, because I think I've had students that are just too relaxed, and too relaxed is not a good thing, because when you start fighting or the match or whatever you call it, you need to be on immediately. You cannot be sort of like, let me feel this out. And the other side of that emotion is just completely kind of freaking out, meaning just kind of just the anxiety just gets to a point where, people start to hyperventilate. They they have the adrenaline dumps. And so basically when faced with that, you try to manage it somewhere in the middle, where you're sort of on both mentally and physically, but also not kind of over the edge, so to speak.
Yeah. And the best thing about martial arts in general is that everything that we're talking about here applies not only to competition and being on the mat, but how we deal with adversity in life, how we deal with our challenges, and we deal with these emotions in our everyday life. I mean, it could be in your job, it could be with your family. And so in the beginning, you said, one of the most unproductive things is worrying about what others will think. And so what exactly did you mean by that when you're talking about, what will others think?
Well, if your performance is not, if you win, it's easy. Everybody loves a winner. There's a very good saying let me make sure I don't screw it up. A victory has 1,000 fathers, but a defeat is an orphan. And it's sort of like, you don't want to disappoint sort of the people that whether they are there or not. And at the end of the day, it's more about you and how, what do you do? Did you prepare yourself? I generally, when my students compete, I do care, of course, if they win or lose, but the most important thing for me is to make sure they put in the work. Whatever happens, happens. Did they lose because they made a mistake? Did they lose because the other guy was better? Did they beat somebody even though the other guy was better, which means they used a good strategy? At the end of the day, I think it's more about the preparation and kind of just, like you said, sucking up all those feelings and managing them in a way, you will never be able to just completely disassociate yourself from them, but managing them in a way that will help you in life. I mean, there's a reason why, now you have Mark Zuckerberg and, other high-powered individuals training martial arts. And martial arts, especially when you're in combat and you need to, people watching you, and obviously you got to make sure that you protect yourself and you try to win, but at the same time managing the expectations, managing sort of your psyche, and managing sort of the adrenaline and so forth. It's lessons that can be directly applied to a lot of other things you do in life. If you're asked to make a speech in front of 50 of your peers, or worse yet, 50 of people that tend to be more senior than you are or more experienced, it's a very similar thing as you need to, obviously, the chance of getting hurt physically is a lot less than in a martial arts competition. But the idea of managing all your emotions and just make sure that you do a good job delivering the speech and, be engaging, and there's a lot of parallels.
Right. Well, and competition is much like taking a test for a new rank, performing, like you said, getting up and speaking, and those types of challenges give us feedback, right? I mean, so we practice and we train or we prepare, and then whether you compete or you perform or you get up and speak, when it's all said and done, you can take it and look at it as a moment of growth. So what did I do well? What do I need to work on further? Because it helps kind of give you direction. Now, of course, like you said, everybody loves a winner, but I mean, you could probably dissect a match that even if you won that match, maybe you could have won that match faster. Maybe you could have won that match, by more points, whatever it may be. So again, competition, performance, speaking, things that really push us to test ourselves, gives us an opportunity for growth. Of course, if we look at it from that perspective, right?
Absolutely. There's a saying, you either win or lose or learn. But it's a little oversimplification. You can learn even from a victory, but it's kind of rare. Sometimes you don't learn. It's just everybody's so happy, everything went well. But we try to dissect even the sort of matches or fights where we've won or my students have won. But you certainly learn a lot more from a defeat. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that we could all agree with that, right? We learn so much from our losses and from our failures because we get blinded by the victory, because when you win, you win. When you do well, like that was the result that you wanted. When you don't get the result you wanted, it's like going back to the drawing board and starting all over again. It's so funny that you were talking about, getting up and speaking and how that's a lot different than being in a competition where you have the chance to get hurt. And I bring up being hurt because we have a partner who is a very strong supporter of our program. And I just want to highlight them really quick. This is Insurance Brokers West. Real quick, take a look, guys. All right. Well, I hope that nobody ever needs to use their insurance, but if you ever have insurance needs, reach out to Insurance Brokers West, headquarters right here in Moore Park, California. Thank you for being a supporter of the show. So, Silver Fox, we've been talking about tournaments a little bit and competition and the emotions of competition, but you also mentioned that you were a karate competitor, a karate tournament competitor earlier in your career. Tell us a little bit about that background.
True. Yeah. Same. I was at the time, I got hooked on martial arts like a lot of other people, just watching, Kung Fu theater and so forth. and at some point you decide, okay, I got to do it right. And, I was training with a couple of, we were in a Taekwondo school and we started to compete in some, open karate tournaments. And, at the time, again, we were hobbyists, very avid hobbyists. Again, back then I used to train, Taekwondo and 6 to 7 days a week. And you want to kind of test yourself at that time. And for me, it was a valuable experience. I didn't do it a whole lot. I did it just a couple of times. I enjoy the process of learning. I think that's sort of the part about martial arts that I enjoy the most, and trying to dissect how things could be done better, whether it's for me or for my students. And that's sort of the part that I'm focusing on right now. And it's kind of amazing because I still train every single day, and I try to make sure that, I shoot videos of myself, like, okay, maybe when I'm training, I come up with a different way to do things, or maybe something is not clicking just the right way. So I kind of go over and try to break it down. And I think, when you talk about competition, I think what it does is it kind of highlights inadequacies, but it could be so broad because I tend to right now focus on technical aspects, but in competition, there's just so many things that could potentially go right or wrong. And, it could be a weight cut, could be a strategy, tactics, could be mental preparation, could be, sort of how you approach the match. So there's just so many. I've seen so many things that actually influence the impact of the fight or the match. A lot of times, it's not necessarily a lot of times, but highly frequently. And I, it's a big percentage. It's not more than 50% of the time, but it's a big percentage where not necessarily the technically better guy wins. So I think when you start to focus on fighting, competing, you really need to start paying attention to a lot of other things besides technical development.
Well, let's talk about that. So talk about some of the other aspects of being a competitor, being a fighter in competition.
Yeah, it's strategy. Sometimes people try to get into other people's heads, psyching them out. It's, which sort of techniques you think are going to work specifically against the guy. And it literally could be the opposite. I just had one of my one of my students fight professional fight in Atlantic City this past weekend, and I believe his grappling is better than the other guy. The other guy's striking is better than my student, and the other guy kind of opted to strike and use it to set up a takedown. And interestingly enough, I believe it might have been a strategy to possibly sort of let my students know that he's not afraid of the ground, which ultimately it worked against him, because my student reversed him and submitted him in the first round. And it was pretty much the wrong strategy,
right.
But sometimes it works. Frequently it works where the guy's like, oh, what's going on here? I thought I was a better grappler, or I bet I was a better striker. It's kind of interesting when you see two high level grapplers go at it in UFC. Frequently you will see them striking. It becomes a kickboxing match for 3 rounds. Sort of, it just goes to show you that people go in combat tend to go to where they believe there's a greatest sort of gap in skill, rather than where they are the strongest. And I believe that overall that's a good strategy. But sometimes people do things to literally psychologically try to defeat the person before they actually defeat them physically. But again, that can go the other way too. So, right. Weight cut, I've seen way too many weight cuts go bad where guys had no energy. It happened to me one time. This long time ago when it was competing in an open karate tournament, and I tried a weight cut. I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember laying in the tub and trying to sweat out. And in the first round, I wound up going against a Olympic junior gold medalist Taekwondo. And I was drained, so it didn't work well for me. There's guys that tend to fight closer to their natural weight. Weight cutting is, to me, one of the worst possible things about MMA. Because I think it amplifies injury, particularly to the brain, which I'm pretty sure they will find out. I'm sure they already know, but you find out that is a long-term effect that will have impact on a lot of the fighters. And brain is the last organ that rehydrates, and yet people continue to try to game the system where, be better off. You got two 200-pound guys fighting at welterweight 170. Well, why not just fight at 200? I mean, the problem is the way the rules are set, that everybody tries to game the system, and until that is kind of cut out through the rules, that's going to continue to happen. Because one guy says, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm at 170. I'm going to fight 170, and the other guy said, ooh, I know the guy's probably technically better, but if I can be 200 the night of the fight and weigh in at 170, I have an edge. But again, sometimes when the weight cut doesn't go right, it can lose the fight. So there's a lot of things, psychology, strategy, preparation for the fight. Sometimes people prepare for a specific fighter, and then the guy gets injured, and a week before, they get replaced with somebody else. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, anything can happen, leading up to a fight, and anything can happen in a fight.
Exactly.
So, yeah, lots of variables there. My son was a high school wrestler, and I was never a fan of him cutting weight ever. I'm just like, dude, wrestle at your weight, wherever you're at, win your wrestle offs and go wrestle at your weight. Cause it just, I've seen some pretty extreme stuff. And I mean, I'm talking about, for high school kids, professionals, different story. They've got strategy, they've got coaches, but I was just never really a fan of that. And it's really, really hard on an athlete. So, what I'm really curious about is give me a timeline of your martial arts career. So tell me when you first started, and maybe years, if we can, just kind of walk us through when you started Taekwondo, when you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What are some of the other systems or styles that you practice as well?
So this is going back a long time ago. I want to say I started training Taekwondo 85 or 86.
Okay.
And I got my black belt in Taekwondo, and then I wound up getting up to the 3rd degree black belt under World Taekwondo Federation. And my instructor, he was a really, really good Taekwondo instructor, a great man. But he also was not teaching as frequently as before, and so a lot of the more senior students would wind up teaching, including myself. And what we wind up doing, and a lot of us started to go to a lot of seminars. Back then, it was, Bill Superfoot Wallace, who in my mind is a legend in martial arts. I was at the Kovar Promac this past May, and I wound up teaching in the room next to him at the same time. And to me, that was like one of the biggest honors I had. What a great man. Joe Louis and Wally J, a lot of the names that are familiar to people, and Chai Sirisud for Muay Thai, and Gary Hartzell for grappling. And so there was a lot of, so we'd go to, me and my couple of my black belt friends would go to a lot of these seminars and try to pick up different things and incorporate them into our training. That was before even MMA or no hold barred or Vale Tudo was a thing. And in 91, one of my friends lent me a tape, and he said, "Hey, listen, why don't you watch this tape? These guys from Brazil." And so I watched the tape, and then in 1991, I believe, I could be off plus or minus a year, but I believe it was 1991. The Gracies actually came to New Jersey, which is where I live, northern New Jersey, and it's actually a town not far from me, Parsippany, New Jersey, and they taught at a hotel, Sheraton Tara. They didn't even have mats. And I remember there was a lot of people, and everybody was there from the Gracie family. Hickson Gracie, Hoyler Gracie, Horian Gracie, Helio Gracie. And, it was probably about 12 adults and, 8 kids, maybe more. And basically it was a 2-day thing. And it was kind of interesting. And, you basically, when we started grappling, it's just, you feel like a baby. I was just like, okay, I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. So we tried to incorporate that training, and, they came back a year later to teach in the city, this time in New York. And it was like, they started to splinter because I think people started to be more and more interested in, so they all started to do their own thing. So it was fewer, but we tried to incorporate that training, the grappling in our training, but it's like, how much are you going to pick up over a weekend? And in 1993, Horian Gracie sent Craig Kukuk, who was the first American black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to teach in New Jersey, to set up and basically at that time I was still training Taekwondo, and basically what I wanted to do is just incorporate the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in my training, to just as a supplement. Mm-hmm. If I get taken down or we wind up on the ground, I wanted to know what I'm doing. And over time I just started to, I was training 6 days a week, stand up, and 1 day a week Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Every Sunday I'd drive down south, to Central Jersey and train. And then over time I was like, man, this is so intricate. I need to know more. I need to learn. And I just started to transition from 6-1 to 5-2 to, 3 days of stand up and 4 days grappling. And then pretty much mostly all grappling, other than MMA. And how do you incorporate your striking into the clinches and into your grappling to be an effective MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's an awesome history to hear about, because in the early 90s, that's when the BJJ just kind of exploded on the scene. The first UFC in 1993. Royce Gracie comes out, and as you could probably tell the story better from what I understand, is that it was almost a matter of proving a point, because Royce was either the youngest or the least skilled, and they wanted to put him in the UFC against everybody else, and he just did his thing. So is that accurate?
Yeah, at the time I was training regularly for about 6 months. So I started regular training maybe in May of 93. And this happened in November 93. And then, you know, we of course we watched. And yes, it is correct. I think Royce was chosen. He was actually, you know, the guy that was the man in the family at the time was Rickson Gracie. And Royce was chosen to represent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At the time it was called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I think Rorion made a mistake by trademarking the words the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I think that's the reason why it's now known more as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, although people try to make a distinction between Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But again, the reason for that is, and now it's known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he was chosen, and, you know, probably in the fields of, you know, at that time was 8-man tournaments, and, you know, bare knuckles, pretty much everything went, you know, including groin strikes. And you know, he won, I believe, the first 2, and then maybe a third one a few UFCs later. But yes, that is correct.
Yeah, I mean, and look at what the UFC has turned into now. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is still very much part of it, but, you know, the evolution of MMA in general has been tremendous. I mean, I personally love watching the UFC, you know, mostly because it's something my son and I can do together. I mean, I've been training in martial arts since 1985. I remember when I watched the first, you know, event and all of them really thereafter. And still to this day, you know, my son every weekend, Dad, we're watching UFC, you know, and he gets pumped on that. So it's really fun. And right now that's kind of his newfound passion is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's grown up since he was 2 years old in a Korean style in Tong Soo Do, and then also his Krav Maga background. But now, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is starting to take over his interest, at least, you know, for now, to really pursue more knowledge. So it's awesome. It's really awesome to watch.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I hope to get to meet him next time we're in some event together or something.
Well, I hear that I hear Super Show might be coming back potentially in 2025. So that's just a rumor for now, but
okay,
that would be great to get everybody back. And I actually brought him to the Super Show. I think he was either 13 or 14 for the first time. And he was so excited to see, like, you know, because he's done martial arts since he was 2 years old. He's been around it. And to see all the people that I talk about and then see him out there teaching. And he loves John Hackleman and one of his favorite coaches.
Yeah.
And so he went and trained with him a little bit. Anyway, just super, super neat to watch, you know. Do you have family members that are involved in martial arts as well?
I do not.
No. So you're the one.
You're
the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I have only my adopted sons,
that's great.
Which I have probably too many right now.
Well, I was going to say, but as a teacher, as an instructor, all of your students become your kids anyway. So
yeah,
sure you got tons of kids. Well, hey, real quick, I'm going to give a quick promo here. Our school here in Moorpark, California, Moorpark Karate and Krav Maga. Take a look, guys. Well, it's always fun to highlight our school. And of course, you probably saw my son in a couple of those pictures. But I want to urge anybody that's watching this, although that was a commercial for my school, Moorpark Karate, here in Moorpark, California. If you are looking to get your child in an amazing activity that will teach them so much more than the kicking, the punching, and the rolling, I urge you to find a school in your area, whether you're in New Jersey, in California, wherever you are in the world. Get your kids involved in martial arts. So Karel, we were talking right before I played that video of how, you know, our students kind of become our kids and that relationship, right? So before I get to that, tell me about opening your school. You know, you got into competition. You didn't really want to, right? Is what you said earlier. But opening a school, was that a goal? Was that a dream, or did that happen by circumstance?
I didn't want. I got dragged into it.
You keep getting dragged into stuff.
Yeah. I just somehow, But so what wound up happening is, you know, it was when Renzo gave me, you know, when I got my black belt, I would have back 2005 or 6. At that time, you know, purple belts could walk on water. So having a Renzo Gracie black belt, it was kind of hard to find, even in this area. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of guys that were training with me, like. So I had a pretty demanding job. So a lot of times, if I could not go to Renzo's academy or to train, I would have guys basically train in my basement. Just meet me like literally at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We trained for an hour and a half, and then I'd take a shower and drive into the city. And so I had like a kind of rotating stable of guys that basically they would learn things from me, because I would, you know, and I'd have training partners, and they would literally show up pretty much whenever I needed them. That was one of the reasons why I needed to get good, is to make sure that I could literally have a training partner pretty much anytime I want, which actually wound up happening. Anyways, so one guy kind of had a karate school, traditional, you know, martial art karate school, and he said, "Hey, listen, you know, I don't use my school 3 days a week. Why don't you know? I just remodeled it. I put some mats down. Why don't you sublease it? Why don't you start doing some jiu-jitsu classes?" So, you know, why not? So I started teaching 3 days a week. Next thing you know, it's okay. You know, it's growing, and it's 4th day, and then next thing you know, we were, you know, 6 days a week. And I was at that time, you know, the school started to grow, and I got a bigger space. So instead of subleasing, I wind up with kind of a place of my own with, you know, full 7 days a week schedule. And I'm like, all right, I can't do 2 things. You know, I felt like I was half-assing 2 things. So I need to full-ass one thing. And I chose Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the rest is history.
That's pretty awesome. What was the day job? What was the demanding job?
Syndicated loans and corporate finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
completely different.
No, you know. Totally unrelated.
Yeah. But so what was the deciding factor? I mean, you know, I get it. You're kind of half-assing 2 jobs, but like what really did it for you? What said,
I like this better.
Okay.
I like this
just
better.
like
I think one of the things that, first of all, it's, you know, when you run a school, it's a lot of work. Anybody that runs a school will tell you it's a lot of work. You know, when you know, it's kind of funny. A lot of people want to own restaurants, they think they're going to be entertaining their friends and walking around and checking, you know, on people at the table. Hey, you having a great time? Not realizing that if the dishwasher doesn't show up, guess who's doing the dishes?
Right.
And this martial arts is sort of like these kind of professions that people think it's glamorous and it can be, but also that it's like, you know, the amount of work is very little, that you kind of walk around like this, you know, Yoda and things somehow just happen. And the reality is it's a lot of work, but I've always been, you know, that there's a little bit of OCD and ADHD, which probably a lot of martial artists have. I can name names. I know they have.
Oh yeah.
And you know, that sort of the Japanese sort of concept of self-improvement, Kaizen, is, you know, in martial arts, that's what it's about. It's not, you know, yeah, of course, early on it's about the belts and, you know, but eventually it becomes purely the acquisition of knowledge and self-improvement. And then you get a chance, an opportunity to do that, help others with that. You know, it's kind of funny because there was a question on Facebook today. You know, what is the single biggest thing about your gym? And I said, well, and I was anonymous. I think I started talking to a bot because but anyways, I said, first thing is I never refer to my school as a gym. It's an academy, an institution of learning. And, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but a lot of these guys I have, yesterday I just made an announcement. One of my guys won a professional fight in the first round by submission in Atlantic City. And my other black belt who opened a school a few years ago, was like one of my adopted sons, just bought a house with multifamily house. It's like these guys would not have had the path. The society did not provide a good path for them in terms of they were not interested in schools, not stupid, just not interested in schooling. There was not a lot of other jobs. And it becomes an apprenticeship. It becomes an institution of learning, and it can be very, very rewarding. And you realize that you can really impact a lot of people's lives in a positive way. And I think that's one of the best things about being a teacher of martial arts is that. And, of course, my schools, I have affiliates now, and my organization, we have 3 full-time people and we have 12 part-time. I could be off one of them, but at the end of the day, it's a very rational meritocracy. Whereas in the corporate world, it's not usually the case, especially as you rise through the ranks, which I did, is it becomes more and more of a political sort of environment where the guys that wind up running major corporations, they're not the best guys. They're not the most competent people. They're usually the guy that is the best politician in that company. And I've realized that, and I, like, here's a chance in an academy, in a smaller environment, you have a chance to run things the way you think you do, and should be run. And as such, you either reap the rewards or, have to fix things, and you have a chance to help others achieve their goals. I really look at my role as a teacher is not necessarily just to make you best in jiu-jitsu, even though that is very, very high up. Maybe, concretely, that's the number one, but my mission is broader in a sense that I'd like to help you achieve your goals.
No, that's great. Well, I have no idea what a corporate lifestyle would be, because I've been a career martial artist. It was really the first job that I ever had. It's the only career that I've ever had. And so I can definitely agree with the fact, going back when you said how, people think that owning your own business in general, and I own both a restaurant and a karate school, that that it is not all glamorous, because, yes, I might be able to be on the mat and have the highlight, but when the students aren't there, I might be cleaning the toilets, that's just the way it is. But 100%, 100%, when it comes to our students, and I really look at our students as like our own community, our own family. I mean, that's the culture that I love, is a part of our school, is that we are so concerned with how they do, not only on the mat, but how they take what they learn on the mat and apply it to their everyday life. And we talked about this with competition, about taking and learning how to deal with those emotions on the mat is how we deal with our emotions off the mat. But things like, we've watched instructors buy their first home, buy their first car. I've had instructors that it was their first job, and then having a baby or getting married, having a baby, creating their own family, and watching that, the punching, the kicking, the self-defense, it's what we do. I mean, that's the integral part of what we do. But there are so many benefits that come along with the kind of culture and the teachers that I believe you and I are, where we really want to see them succeed in life and reach their potential, not only just their goals, because sometimes our students' goals are not even their full. They don't even know that they could be reaching further than what they've, set for themselves. I mean, whether it's rank or a technique or something just else in their life, we're the ones that believe in them and build their confidence and support them in times that maybe they don't get it somewhere else. And I love that you said that you don't call your school a gym. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with saying, I mean, I went to the gym today. I went to the gym and I worked out at the gym, and nobody at the front desk, well, maybe they know my name, but they don't know anything about my life. They see me, I work out, and I leave, right?
Yeah.
But when you walk in the martial arts school and academy, it's different, because every time someone walks in my school, like, I'm wondering how their life is going. I'm wondering how I can better serve them. How, you know, are you having a good day? Are you having a bad day? What can I do? How can I help? You know, and I think that's really the distinction between what a gym is and what it is that we actually do.
Absolutely.
So it's been how many years since you opened that school?
I want to say 17 or 18.
17 or 18 years. And what would you say has been, as a business owner and as a school owner, you know, what have been some of your biggest challenges that you've overcome in that time frame?
Personnel, managing personnel, because I think, you know, so what I've tried to create is not just sort of let's get a helper, but I also try to create a career path. I literally have outlined things for the guys. So I have people that, you know, maybe they have a regular job and they, you know, they want to just help out maybe 3 classes a week. And that's great, because maybe eventually they want to leave and open their own school. But some of the younger guys, you know, like I said, they do these jobs. It's a job. It's not a career. It's a job. They just need a way to make money, but they don't have a path. And I want to kind of outline a path for them. Like, initially, I need to test people just to make sure you just start out 2 or 3 classes, make sure you're you're on time, you're professional, you listen to direction and so forth. And once they sort of start to prove themselves, they eventually get more hours, then become literally full time. They get health benefits, and then go to salaried. And then the next step is either to stay with me or to open up a school for their own. And so I think it's almost, when you create that kind of thing, at some point you just kind of, it's almost, you become victim of your own success, where, like, okay, because the guys that reach that sort of next, either the highest right before full-time status, at some point they need to go, because they may not want to, you know, it's just, they start to lose motivation. They need to open their own school. Even if you pay, you know, based on, you know, performance, so forth. And you kind of create a thing which is what you wanted to do, and it's successful, but also now you constantly have to, not constantly, but you have to refill as that happens. You know, and that can be very challenging, because I want to pick the right guys, because I don't want to pick the wrong person and you know, have a conversation. It's different from hiring in the corporate world. Hey, we got a job. Oh, you do a good job, maybe you get promoted. Oh, you don't get a good job, you're fired. These are my students. So, you know what I'm saying? If it's not working out,
it's definitely a different relationship.
Yeah. So we do a lot of that initial testing and so forth. So that's sort of been sort of the biggest challenge. I think, you know, knock wood, I think I got it down, because to some extent you're almost fighting your own idea. You created this kind of like, okay, this is an apprenticeship, and some point the apprentice becomes the master and he has to open his own place. But wait, why are you leaving?
Right.
Because that's what it was created. So, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. And in the early days, I was dealing with large corporates. So I went to Columbia Business School, and I dealt with large corporations, you know, CFOs of big Fortune 500 companies. And once I opened the school, I started to deal with, you know, individuals, retail kind of customers, so to speak. So that was a transition for me, also in the early days.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So talk about who would you consider someone as your mentor, or someone who has helped you to create this system for your school, or just in general as a teacher to you, because you're a mentor to many, right? But you can only pour so much into your students as someone else pours into you. So who would you say is someone that pours into you and is your mentor?
I had several, but, Renzo Gracie stands out as, I think, when you look at Renzo has become like the elder statesman of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a member of the Gracie family, grandson of Carlos Gracie, the founder of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, along with Helio. And if you look at the way he carries himself, he's always, first of all, he's created an amazing academy and academies around the world because he was always into innovation, where in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, sometimes you kind of have this, I'm old school, which to me, a lot of time it's, old school doesn't mean that it's, if you're not old school, there's this thing that you respect your elders and tradition. However, a lot of times guys basically stop training and, kind of rely on rudimentary technique, and they justify that lack of continued learning as I'm old school. Well, that's like driving a Model T. I want to drive a modern car. And I think Renzo has always encouraged innovation within his academies, and that's one of the reasons why he's created so many literally world-class teachers, not just practitioners and sort of. If you look at sort of the many of the UFC world champions, they ultimately come down to the Renzo Gracie tribe, but also a lot of teachers, because he's always encouraged innovation. But I think what I've learned from his, especially the last 10 to 15 years, is his approach to sort of his role, what it can provide for him and for others, where he's helped people get jobs, get careers, get clients, put them in a position of having a roof over their head, a job to allow them to really, function as a business owner. So it just, there's just too many examples, but that to me is kind of the next level of martial arts teaching. It's that sort of creating something beyond. Of course, I'm going to teach you world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but also I can help you achieve your goals. We talked about that. And I think Renzo epitomizes that to a large extent, much more so than a lot of people can see.
Well, I would love the opportunity to interview Renzo or anybody in the Gracie family. So maybe we can make that happen and we can bring this story to light here on this podcast. I'm also curious if anybody that is currently watching live, if you have any questions as we get ready to wrap up our interview today with Silver Fox, please, if you have any questions, anything you want to hear about, put it in the comments. My last question is, what are your future goals? What are things that you are working towards currently?
So I am, so my business has grown, my school, but, I'm in a very simple business. Actually, Renzo says is we're in a business of giving people confidence. We're in the business of helping people achieve their goals. My product is, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instruction. But, a lot of times when people grow, especially in martial arts industry, they pursue sort of the brick and mortar model, which, more locations, which, that is sort of the classical model of success. And I actually started to go down that path, and I changed it a few years ago. I only have 2 locations that I own. I have affiliates. I actually have changed things quite dramatically. And for me, it's fewer headaches. I can have as much influence, if not more, and also help people achieve their goals. And so basically what I'm trying to do is I try to create as people grow up through my organization, when they want to open the school, I don't want to open it for them. I'm going to help them. I'm going to help them negotiate the lease. I'm going to help them with whatever they need, but I want them to be the owner, the majority owner. If they need, I can be a small part owner, but I want them to be majority owner because they're going to be the ones responsible for it. Because they're also going to benefit from it if it takes off. And they're going to have, so I don't have to have the headaches. Hey, Fox, the toilet broke. Okay, why you call me? Call the plumber. So I try to now grow. I'd like to have at least one physical location as the headquarters, but I just actually put out an instructional app on it's on Apple Store, and it literally today came out on the Android store and the Google store. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but literally today it's available on Android as well. Took us a year and a half. I'm working with people in Pittsburgh. It took us a year and a half to put it together. It's so that's an area of growth. I basically started years ago, and online. It's on YouTube. It's still available. It's still free. Every Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, I do a live show. It's basically BJJ troubleshooting. The origin of that is, I have, for some reason, a pretty worldwide following of people in jiu-jitsu, and people will send me messages. Hey, Fox, how do you do this? My student did this last week at a competition and he got caught. So I remember I'm driving on a highway after doing a seminar in Germany, and I'm talking to a guy in India answering a technical question, and the phone call keeps getting dropped. It's through Messenger on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I said, we got to do better. So I started doing a live show. We were doing it once a month. During COVID, we went every single day for 99 days. Wow. And after COVID, we do it weekly now. Nice. And now we also expanding to the app, which allows us to basically, it's available worldwide. Basically, we have world-class instruction. They have access to me to live, so they can ask questions. If something is unclear, they can ask a live question, both on YouTube as well as in the app. And 3, it's organized by submission as well as by position, both defensively as offensively. So people can kind of create their own almost like index of what they're working on. So it's very user-friendly. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm expanding and expanding my schools is the growth of the physical location 1. I have 2 right now, but 1 or 2 is fine, but I don't want to have any more. The online presence on YouTube and the app. And also I do a fair amount. I do about 6-7 camps around the world in places that I think are very cool. And, but a lot of times people would not go to. So for example, I will do a camp in Sicily in Italy. So people will go to Italy, they'll go to Rome and they'll go to Florence, but they won't go to Sicily. And those are places that I've been, and they're amazing. There's some historical sites. Of course, we have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, but in the afternoon, we go out and we go see a 2,500-year-old Greek theater, which is still in use today. So basically, I use these camps as a way to spend 3 to 5 days with people, bond with them through jiu-jitsu, but also show them parts of the world that they would possibly not go on their own. So that's sort of where I'm driving what I'm doing right now, as opposed to physical expansion.
So for people that are watching right now, where can they find you on YouTube?
Silver Fox BJJ YouTube channel. Everything is very simple. So everything on Instagram, Facebook, Silver Fox BJJ, Silver Fox BJJ, Silver Fox BJJ. It's easy.
And how would people go and find the app? So what would they search for? Same thing?
Silver Fox BJJ. Yeah.
All right, cool. And how much is the app?
So right now it's $14.99 a month, but we're running a promotion till December 31st, which is 30% off.
Okay, cool. So if you're watching this live, or maybe you're watching on a replay and you want to go check that out, go check out Silver Fox BJJ on YouTube and search that in the Google App Store or in the Apple
Store
apps, right? And
2 words, Silver Fox, because apparently there's a traditional jiu-jitsu school in Hawaii that has an app for scheduling appointments. So that's not it.
There you go. There you go. Okay, cool. Well, listen, this has been an amazing conversation. I've learned so much from you and so much about you. So I appreciate your time today. And I want to encourage everybody, please share, like, comment on this video, and go to youtube.com and subscribe to the podcast as well. Any closing thoughts?
It was truly my pleasure. I enjoyed talking with you. I always enjoy talking about martial arts, and I hope I get to see you soon in person.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. And if you can hang out for a minute, we'll have a quick chat as soon as this video is over. But I want to remind everybody, guys, go out, find your passion, do what you love, master your motivation through discipline, and get after it. All right, guys, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Master Motivation. Thanks.